We now know who the Miami Hurricanes are taking on for a shot at the national championship game. Who wins, Miami or Ole Miss? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On ACC. I'm Jackson Holzer, host of Locked On Syracuse. That's Kenton Gibbs, host of Locked On NC State Wolfpack. And thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts on the #1 sports podcasting network. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. On today's show, the transfer portal is officially open in college football, and to nobody's surprise, it is as chaotic as ever. We're going to go over some of the big losses that the ACC has taken so far in the portal and whether or not the teams losing some big players can replenish in the transfer portal. Plus, quarterback carousel. There are plenty of ACC teams looking for a quarterback in 2026. We'll go over some of the top names available and who is linked to whom in the portal. But first and foremost, Kenton, we got to go over the team that is still playing in the 2025 season. I know it's 2026, but it's the 2025 season. The Miami Hurricanes. Now, yesterday, we went over Miami's upset win over Ohio State. It was before we knew who in Miami would play in the last four. It is Ole Miss taking down Georgia in an upset 39-34 walk-off field goal with a few seconds left. Then they added a safety at the end of the game. The game will take place January 8th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, Fiesta Bowl, Miami and Ole Miss. We don't have to worry about the other side, Indiana and Oregon. Kenton, your first initial thoughts on Miami versus Ole Miss?
You know, this is two teams playing with house money, which I know gets under Jackson Holzer's skin, but it's the truth. You've got a Miami team that nobody thought was supposed to be here. Everybody was screaming, "You stole Notre Dame's spot," and all that good stuff. But you've got that team on one side. You've got a team without a head, or who lost their head coach, rather, in the middle of the season, towards the end of the season, but you get the point, before this playoff run started, who is going to a conference rival, and you're sitting here saying these are the two teams that are in the Final Four on this side of things. So these are two teams that nobody expected to be here. I mean, both of them took down the actual odds-on favorites before this thing started in Georgia and Ohio State. Much credit to both teams. These are two phenomenal teams in very different ways. We all know about Ole Miss and their RPOs and how they will RPO you to death, okay? That is just part of the deal there. That's part of who they are. And everybody thought Lane Kiffin was the mastermind that was pulling the strings and being the puppet master, getting everything going. And lo and behold, they seem to be doing just fine without him. I mean, how many times did they beat Georgia with Lane Kiffin?
0.
Pete Golding, first shot, said, "Hey, I got something. I've got the rock that can slay Goliath." And so they did that. Heck of a job by Trinidad Chambliss as well. I mean, he's a phenomenal quarterback and all that. I just don't think that they've seen anything like Miami's front on the defensive side, especially. Georgia's front offensively, Georgia's offensive line, they were better this year than they were last year. They were better. It's still the way in which Miami has been tossing guys out the club. I mean, they've been telling them, "Hey, no hat policy. Hey, we told you no boots in the club." They just throwing guys around offensively, moving tons of furniture. This is a really, really cohesive and massive group. They just live to impose their will and lean on guys. And then once you get beyond the massive line of scrimmage, you've got Mark Fletcher out of very poultry, very petite, 6'2", 225 coming downhill.
Yeah, he's tiny.
Yeah, he's a scat back, as they say back in the day. So, ultimately, I think that Miami has the advantage because, I've talked about for Miami for quite some time, they have war daddies in the trenches. And when you got that, When you've got big fellas that can lead, you're always going to find yourself in a good position. And I'm very excited that Miami is doing what they're doing. The only thing that's upsetting me is Ruben Bain's draft stock keeps rising, and I know that people are going to ignore the arm length that he won't fall to my Detroit Lions. That's the only thing that's upsetting me about this run, because I was really
unfortunately for him, he's probably going to be a New York Jet.
I
don't wish that upon anyone. I think that is a terrible fate. I mean, he had a big contract as a rookie to start, but he won't. I don't know if he'll get a second contract being with the New York Jets. They love to waste away talent.
Well, if y'all wanted to trade the pick to the Lions for like a third-string center or something, we won't be upset.
Knowing the New York Jets history, I think it would take a long snapper in order to get that pick.
Get Woody on the phone. You heard him. You heard him, Brad Holmes. Get Woody on the phone. But in all seriousness, this is a Miami team that, they've been disrespected nationally all year. This is a team that nobody has given a chance, especially after their second loss. And this is a team that is going out and proving it time and time and time again. The teams that they made look pedestrian or worse have gone on to win bowl games against double-digit win teams. The teams that they whooped the wheels off of have gone on to dominate elsewhere. So ultimately, Miami has shown us time and time again who they are. And while I still believe they're playing with church money, the expectations are now raised up a little bit, especially with Ole Miss pulling off the upset of Georgia last night.
I think to your point, these are two teams that I look at and say they are very different styles. And I can ask a very similar question about both these teams. We can start from the Miami angle, which is, can Miami win a potential shootout type game against Ole Miss? Because Ole Miss's offense is no joke. They put up nearly 500 yards on Georgia's defense, which was red hot coming into this game. And then all of a sudden, Ole Miss made it look like it was like nothing. It was just Swiss cheese the entire game. And this is the Georgia Bulldogs defense that we're talking about here. Don't know if it's necessarily on the level of Ohio State, which is what Miami just faced, but still top tier defense. And Ole Miss, actually really for the second time this season, completely shredded them. So Ole Miss's offense, even without Lane Kiffin as their head coach, no problem. Can Miami win a potential shootout if that's what it comes to be? Now you turn it over to the Ole Miss side. Can Ole Miss win a smash mouth style football game? Could Ole Miss win a game 21-17? Could they? This is one of those games where I looked on FanDuel to see if there's an early line, and there is no early line so far on this game. I think that this is one of those games where it's dead even, and it all really is going to depend on the style of game that is played. If this is a low-scoring battle, it will definitely favor Miami. If this starts becoming a shootout, I think it favors Ole Miss. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I 1,000% agree. Stylistically, I've given the same blueprint for Miami all throughout the game, all throughout the playoffs, and they need to don't forget who brought you to the dance. Okay, don't get cute and all of a sudden see that pretty lady that's an inch or two taller, got a little bit more of a dump truck back there and all that, and all of a sudden you're leaving who brought you to the dance. Don't you do it, Miami. Don't you. The allure of a track meet on grass may be pretty on the outside, but what brought you to the dance is steak and potatoes. What brought you to the dance is being physical, punch you in the mouth, 5 yards of carry. That's what brought you here. That's what brought you here. And to be honest, I think Ole Miss would fare better in a rock fight than Miami would in a track meet. But to that end, I do think that if Miami creates a rock fight, I'm not sure that Ole Miss and Trinidad Chambliss have the wherewithal to just stay patient, not press it, not force it, just stay patient. I think that they would fare better than if you ask Carson Beck, hey, we're going to need you to throw for 430 today. We're going to need you to throw for 380 today and get it done. I don't think that that's their recipe to win. I think if you have that and you're demanding that of Carson Beck, you're putting yourself in a very bad situation. But with that in mind, I do think that, Miami can make anybody slow it down, slow the game on down, and we're going to eliminate a lot of those extra possessions that y'all are used to seeing. And this is just going to be body blow, body blow, body blow. We're going toe-to-toe. We're in a phone booth, and somebody's got to win this game here. That's what I think Miami can force this team to do, because they force some of the best offenses in the nation into that. They force some of the best teams in the nation into that. We're going to step on each other's toe, and neither one of us can move. And this is what we're going to do right here, right now. Give it all you got in this slugfest. And so I don't see Ole Miss having the ability to escape that at a higher level. I think that they got away with that against Georgia because ultimately, I have been saying this for the longest, and people didn't believe me until this year. That layoff is too long. That layoff is just too long. It's teams in the bye week, since the playoffs have had a bye, are 1-7. And last year, you could say, well, the wrong teams got the byes, Kenton. It's not about the bye week. It's just the wrong teams got the bye because they went to conference champions. What about this year?
Yeah, no.
What happened this year?
The only team that handled business was Indiana. And honestly, I am not surprised about Indiana smashing Bama. I didn't believe in Alabama, especially after the SEC championship game. And then, I didn't think Oklahoma was very good either, and they were able to beat them. Cool. I did not think they were going to go and beat Indiana, and Indiana just destroyed them. But that was the only team, to your point, off a bye that handled business. Everyone else lost.
In 2 years. In 2 years, they're the only one. And they're so head, shoulders, knees, and toes above them. People keep disrespecting Indiana because they don't watch the game. They just look at brands. You've got a Heisman winner, a top 10 defense, an amazing running back in Hemby. You've got dudes over there. You've got dudes everywhere. We haven't even mentioned Surratt and company in terms of the pass catchers. And yet we're still looking at a phenomenal cast. And so ultimately, anybody who pays attention to football and not just, oh boy, SEC football just means more, you knew what was going to happen in that game.
Yep, 100%. I think Nick Saban said it best in the lead up to that game. He's like, I'm talking to my Alabama guys, and the Alabama guys are saying that they should beat the you-know-what out of Indiana. But little do they know that Indiana is a far superior team, and they themselves might now be the favorite to win the national championship for all the reasons that you just outlined. Back to Miami and Ole Miss briefly before we talk about ACC transfer portal. My initial gut feeling is Miami wins this. And I think for a score, I would say 27-21, something along those lines.
Give me Miami winning an extremely close one. And I think they win this extremely close one just due to one or two bad decisions by Pete Golding. Give me 17-14 Miami.
Wow. So the Ole Miss offense being held down to 14 points. I still have Miami winning, but Ole Miss at least getting 3 touchdowns on that Canes defense because they are a legitimate offense, one of the best in college football. But hey, we both have Miami advancing to the national championship game. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. I'm sure Canes fans are absolutely 100% going to pick Miami to beat Ole Miss. But hey, if you feel any differently than us and most of the Miami fans, comment your thoughts in the comments section below. Now, moving away from the college football playoff in the 2025 season, we look ahead to 2026 and the ACC in the transfer portal. We'll go over the quarterback carousel as well as a number of the key losses so far that a couple of ACC teams have taken in the portal so far. So we'll talk about it all next on Locked On ACC. Let's talk about something most men don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life. It doesn't just switch off at night, and when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rougiette Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rougiette Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. It's easy to understand why over 150,000 men have already made the switch. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now is the time. Head to Rougiette.com/LockedOnCollege. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rougiette Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. Locked On ACC. I'm Jackson Holzer. That's Kenton Gibbs. Locked On NC State Wolfpack. The transfer portal in college football is officially open. It opened at midnight on January 2nd. It'll run until January 16th. Let's go over the quarterback carousel because I would say that this year's quarterback class and the names featured in it are better than last year's class. And that's good for the ACC because there are a number of teams that are looking for a starting quarterback in 2026. But I want to start off, Kenton, and I'm not just doing this because of NC State and the bias that you have towards NC State. I'm doing this because it's actually really significant for the ACC. NC State is keeping CJ Bailey away from the transfer portal. That's big for NC State. Let's start off with that. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I'm very excited about it. I'm extremely elated about it. And more important than anything else, I'm excited about this because this was what was best for all parties involved. And some people would say, well, Ken, that's clearly you being biased to NC State. I'm going to tell you this. If I gave you a list of all the quarterbacks that transferred out of NC State recently and said, hey, what's this guy up to? What's this guy up to? What's this guy up to? What did they do when they left? Not a single one of them left and their career trajectory took off. I say that because when you look at where CJ Bailey is seated, you are the de facto QB1. You're the incumbent. You're the guy. The offense is set up for you. The offensive coordinator, another year of continuity, all those things. You are the guy. This is your team. There is nobody coming in to compete with you for that spot, okay? Where else are you going to go in the Power Four that you know nothing they can do is going to make them compete for that spot that you got, that you are going there to get. And they have more of a winning cachet than NC State. Not saying that NC State is exactly world beaters and they've done spectacularly. However, that is a team that 8 wins a year is becoming the standard. That's becoming the expectation there. So now you're looking at, all right, the elite of the elite of the elite. Now, which one of those teams wants you? They got to need a quarterback. They got to want you, and you got to know, hey, they're not going to bring in anybody else with me to compete.
I think the one that actually jumps out to me is the Miami Hurricanes. I think Miami, if he were to have entered the portal, Miami would have been that team to be all over him. He's a South Florida guy, so it makes a lot of sense.
Sure. In theory, do you think that Miami would trust him enough to not bring in anybody to compete with him as well?
I do. I think if you're going to get a guy, I think CJ Bailey would have been one of the 5 best quarterbacks available. And I think if any team gets him, he's the unquestioned quarterback one. Miami, his only competition would be whatever Miami signs out of high school. I don't think they're bringing in they're interested in Brendan Sorsby. You're not bringing in Brendan Sorsby and CJ Bailey. You're picking one or the other.
Right. And that's the thing, right? You're saying one or the other instead of, hey, if CJ comes out, I know for a fact they wouldn't talk to Sorsby. It would be over for Sorsby, right? Like that's what I mean. NC State is not talking to anybody else. They want you. You are their guy, period. And that's what I mean by that. Not that it's impossible for him to get into a better situation. Similarly to how if he were to leave, it wouldn't be impossible for NC State to find a better quarterback. That would not be impossible. Highly unlikely, yes. Impossible, no. Same thing for CJ going elsewhere. Because, again, a lot of these guys get into the portal. They don't really have good counsel in their ear, and they go from being the guy wherever they are to all of a sudden they're competing, and now they're not starting anymore. And, again, I'm not going to say any names or anything like that, but there have been plenty of examples at plenty of schools in the Power Four, ACC, at NC State in particular, where they were the guy here or they were going to be the guy or they were one play away from being the guy, and then they transferred themselves into oblivion. It's just the reality.
I think for NC State, this is significant because I don't think he would have been replaceable. I mean, you would have gotten a quarterback, but I don't think he would have been on the level of CJ Bailey. Getting CJ Bailey back, I think it ensures that NC State, just from looking from afar, is going to be a bowl team once again in 2026. Could they be more? Sure. We'll have to see what else that NC State does, but at least having CJ Bailey back in the fold, 2 years now of starting experience, I think he's set for a big third season, potential NFL prospect. Great news for NC State getting him back. But there's plenty of other teams that are looking for a quarterback that are certainly bummed out that Bailey is not entering the portal. Miami, they are reportedly after Brendan Sorsby, one of the top guys available. He's from Cincinnati. And DJ Lagway from the University of Florida. This is all these sources out there, Matt Zenitz and Chris Hummer from 24/7 Sports, Pete Nakos over at On3. There are many ACC schools involved for him. Miami's involved, Louisville's involved, Virginia's involved. I saw a report out there about Stanford and Florida State being involved for DJ Lagway. So, Kenton, because there are so many teams that are interested in the ACC in DJ Lagway, let's just talk about DJ Lagway, the quarterback. What are your thoughts on him and potentially joining the conference?
I think at his highest clip, he's a good quarterback. However, the best ability is availability. And I can tell you this as a guy who was always injured myself. If you're not out there, you're not out there. That's just so he leaves you in a precarious situation where you know the talent and upside are there. The talent and upside for him to be really good are there. The question is, can you keep him on the field long enough to get to that talent upside? And can you keep him at your school long enough? Because he wanted to be a Florida Gator. Everybody knows that. That's not a secret. However, it was the incoming coach, John Summerall, who, there was some discrepancies on whether or not they wanted him there. But the biggest thing about DJ is, again, he's fantastic. He's just, to be such a big guy, he's 6'2", about 240 or so. And yet it seems like his bones and tendons are made out of glass and rubber bands. And it's like, that's going to be tough to get by. He's a dual threat guy. He's got a big arm. He can run it. He's a very physical runner, but every hit he takes, it's like the Anthony Davis effect. It's like when he's out there, he's going to be a menace everywhere he is. How often can he be out there is the real question. And that's particularly troublesome when you have a younger guy like him and a guy that's going to want to run the ball, and that's part of his game. That's because, respectfully, if you take away DJ Lagway's legs, I'm not saying running is his primary tool. I'm saying if you take him out, take running out of his game in general, it's just like with any other quarterback. You're now limiting what they can do and how they can positively impact your offense. He brings a lot of good things. Again, he can throw the ball a country mile. He has some touch. He has some accuracy. The question is he worth the money that he'll most likely command with the injury history? I'd say no.
I am 1,000% with you that this guy is going to get overpaid. I don't know what team is going to overpay him, but he is going to get overpaid because of his high school pedigree, I should say. He was one of the top quarterbacks just a couple of years ago coming out of high school. Every time I have watched DJ Lagway, I have been left feeling underwhelmed. Every single time. I don't think he is that good. Now, the upside is that, hey, he's a former 5-star quarterback and he's only entering his third year of college and he's very, very young. He did not take a redshirt year. So you can make an argument that, hey, he could get better. He could get a lot better and be one of the top quarterbacks in the ACC next season. He has that type of upside, but I can't sit here. Like, let's say he goes to Louisville, right? Mm-hmm. Or Virginia. Forget Stanford and Florida State for a moment, because I think that even with DJ Lagway, those programs are so in the gutter that it's not going to matter for them. But if we're talking about Louisville and Virginia specifically, Miami, don't see them actually being a player for DJ Lagway. Don't see it at all. So Louisville, Virginia. Can you guarantee that those teams are bowl teams with DJ Lagway next season?
Louisville, I feel comfortable saying yes, they're a bowl team with DJ Lagway. Virginia,
yeah.
I want to believe you. I want to believe you, Tony.
Oh.
Tony Elliott, I want to believe you. Not with DJ Lagway, because to me, if you bring in DJ Lagway, you have to save money for a QB2. You have to. Like you are making a bad bet if you're pushing all your chips to the middle of the table for DJ Lagway.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking that he's going to get overpaid, because I don't think he's going to go anywhere to compete for a starting quarterback spot. That's if that is the plan, which would be ideal, where he enters a competition, great. It's not going to happen. The team that gets DJ Lagway is the team that's going to say you are unquestioned quarterback one for next season. For context, ladies and gentlemen, these were DJ Lagway's numbers last season. 63% completion percentage. It's not bad. About 2,300 passing yards in 12 games. All right. 16 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. I mean, like, he's not that good. He's just not. Like, he's got the name, he's got the high school pedigree, but he doesn't have the production just yet. And so I feel like this is a guy that's going to get overpaid. And I hope for the sake of the ACC that it's not an ACC team. Maybe he goes to like LSU or Baylor or something like that. even then, like I can't see LSU settling for DJ Lagway. I can't see it. I mean, maybe Baylor, that makes sense. I can't see it for LSU. It just, he doesn't have the production.
Yeah. Ultimately, I look at DJ Lagway and I say, if you bring him in for a competition, great. But I think the way that he left Florida hurt his stock enough to where he won't be able to demand, like, hey, I need to be the unquestioned starter. Not at a serious program. I just don't, because if you're looking around the country and saying, okay, who's a serious program and who needs a quarterback? Would any of those teams say, undoubtedly, that's our guy?
No, I mean, so. we like Miami is like a very serious program, obviously, right? You think Miami is actually going to settle for DJ Lagway? Like that's what their transfer portal quarterback's going to be?
Again, the stipulation that you laid down of you're my unquestioned guy, there's not a snowball chance in hell Miami takes him like that. There's a way that Miami says, if you want to come in and compete with Sorsby, sure, and you're not going to get paid creme de la creme money. You'll get paid enough. You won't be struggling and jacking for beats, but you're not going to get paid what you were getting at Florida. You're not going to get paid top dollar. Sorry, we're just not there. Sure, I can see that.
But I just don't think that.
But I don't think he would take that.
Yeah, I don't think he would. That's why I'm saying I don't think it's realistic at all. I think it would take a team like a Baylor that says, you know what, let's just we're going to make him our guy and hope that he improves, and especially not playing in as big of a conference in the Big 12 and see what happens. Or maybe Virginia takes a flyer on him and says, all right, we're going to make him our guy and we'll see what happens. Maybe DJ Lagway can put it all together. And that's that. But I don't get the hype with him, other than the fact that he was very good in high school and a 5-star quarterback. As far as what he's done on the field, I think that he is going to command a lot of money, and a team is going to regret paying him said money. But good on DJ Lagway if he gets the money. I'm not blaming the player. Blame the game. But anyway, coming up here on Locked On ACC, several programs have taken some big losses in the transfer portal. Can those programs replace those players? We'll talk about it next on Locked On ACC. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame and limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. And the timing is perfect. Right before the games, right before the weekend starts, it adds a little extra energy to your Friday night basketball without having to overthink it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. A few programs have taken some pretty big losses in the transfer portal. Louisville losing Isaac Brown, running back, to the portal. Pitt losing star linebacker Rasheen Biles to the portal. How many tackles for loss did he have last season? 17 and a half. That is crazy. He's one of the top linebackers in the portal. And Duke losing one of their top players in the secondary from a year ago, Terry Moore. So the question is, Kenton, how are those programs going to be able to replace those guys?
Here's the thing. Louisville, to me, is the one that intrigues me the most because they're not just losing Isaac Brown. They're also losing Duke Watson, who, if you look at his stats from this year, you say, oh, he was there, running back 4 or whatever. He was hobbled, banged up with injury all year. But if you go back just a year, there was a time where that running back duo was talked about in the same conversations as the running back duo that Penn State has. They were just the speedy version as opposed to Penn State having 2 big bruisers. I mean, just a year ago, Watson put up 8.9 yards a carry. 8.9 yards a carry. How many carries do you think he took to accomplish that? Just
I'm looking at it right now. 67.
That's my point. 67. This ain't a guy that he got a couple jet sweeps and that was it. This was a legitimate running back. So losing both of those guys is going to be tough. That's going to be extremely tough on that Louisville team. And so I'm sitting here saying you not only have to replace their just sheer talent and speed and both of their home run hitting abilities, but also their veteran presence. Both of those guys had been in that program for quite some time. And we know that Louisville team is a school that each year is doing 1-year rentals at quarterback. So who's setting your culture? Who's setting your, hey, this is the Louisville way, this is how we do things here? It was expected to be one of, if not both of those guys, and now both of them are gone. I think the one that will be the easiest to replace, only because this coach somehow has like a hidden super soldier serum for linebacker somewhere. Pat Narduzzi, every time you look up, you're like, wait, he's got another All-American linebacker? What the hell is going on? What is Pitt doing? How do they keep doing this? And don't get me wrong, Rasheen Biles, extremely talented, and he plays that outside linebacker position where most teams pull that guy off the field when they're playing nickel. Pitt doesn't do that. He was going to be on the field regardless. And so it's one of those situations where you kind of look at that and say, he is going to be tough to replace with his production and his versatility. But for whatever reason, Pitt continues. They just trudge on, with their linebacker factory. And Terry Moore, I don't know how Manny Diaz did this. I don't know when this became a thing. This defense could not stop a runny nose with Robitussin and a nerve block. Like, these guys could not. They just couldn't figure it out to save their life. Yes, I know a nerve block won't stop a runny nose. I get it. I'm just saying, people. Anyway, yes, like, this is a reality of I was very confused by that defense being as bad as they were. And Terry Moore was also banged up a lot this year. So I think of the three, Isaac Brown is going to be the toughest to replace because, I mean, how many running backs in the country could average 8.8 yards per carry as your lead back? How many guys could do that? Every time I watched Louisville this year, when they were on offense, I'm like, I'm not going to the bathroom because Isaac Brown could be on the field. He could be on the field. He could touch the ball at any time. I'm very worried about Louisville, especially because we know they're going to have to replace their quarterback. Chris Bell is probably going to be in the NFL next year, and you got to replace your starting running back.
I agree with you on Louisville and losing Isaac Brown. Isaac Brown's probably one of the top running backs in the portal and probably an NFL guy in the future. But Duke losing Terry Moore should not be underestimated because Duke, even with Terry Moore last year, was one of the worst pass defenses in the conference. I'm looking right now, third worst in the ACC in pass defense with Terry Moore.
Yeah.
So now you're losing one of your top players in the secondary to an already bad secondary. Good luck. Hope and pray that you're better next year. Is that the strategy? I mean, who are you going to go out that's better than him? Who are you going to get that's better than him in the transfer portal? And how is that going to improve the secondary in general without having Terry Moore? I don't see how Duke is going to have a strong secondary next year now.
Well, what Duke's strategy should be, Manny Diaz, go over to John Shire's office, get on both knees and say, please, John, give me some of that NIL money you got. You only got about 13 guys on your roster. I got 80 to feed over here. Because you're right. That is going to be a tough time. That Duke defense this year, I mean, don't get me wrong. We are talking about the conference champs here, but do you know how they won the conference championship? Every game was a race to 50. It was a race to 40-something. That is not sustainable. All of those games that you won this year, it never works out that you get multiple years of winning that way. Look at Wake Forest, Sam Hartman's last few years. Yes, there was a year where they made the ACC championship. There was also a year where you just were stuck. Oh, my God, is Wake Forest bad again? What's happening? All because when you lean on that race to 40, race to 50 mantra, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but you got to live with it. And, we know that Duke is known as a basketball school, but again, they are the defending ACC champs. If they want to have that happen again, you can't. By hoping, wishing, and praying, you got to spend some money on that defense.
Absolutely. But it's so weird calling Duke the conference champion. It's just I can't get over. You got Miami in the Final Four, and yet Duke is the conference champion because they were in the conference title game. They were allowed to go, and they took care of business. They beat Virginia, kept Virginia out of the college football playoff. Kenton, any last thoughts on the ACC in the transfer portal before we head out?
I mean, hey, I know it is weird calling Duke the conference champions, but in the words of Nevadius Wilburn, better known as Future, it's crazy, but it's true.
It is crazy and true. Folks, this has been my final time so far filling in for the last couple of weeks here on Locked On ACC. The next episode with Kenton Gibbs will feature your normal co-host, Alex Dono from Locked On Canes. So, folks, thank you all so much for the love and support throughout these last couple of weeks. And don't worry, I will be back every Friday delivering solo episodes here on Locked On ACC. Folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On ACC, and we'll see you all again soon.